Alright, so first things first. I am going to do a nice underpainting here. And hopefully not spray my microphone with water too much. Just going to wet the paper a little bit ahead of time. Just kind of helps move the water along. And not relying on just the water of the brush. It's enough. And I'm also going to spray a little on my palette here, just to keep things wet. I do this like every minute or so, and keeps your paints active the whole time. I am working with Winsor & Newton designer gouache, as I said. And let's see here. So this is a flat palette, so I do have to be careful how much water I put on it, but I do like to paint a little thicker anyway, as if I'm using acrylic. It's basically sort of my end game acrylic medium. I pretend it's acrylic. But I like all the different things you can do with gouache. Sort of borrow a couple things from the watercolor world, borrow a couple things from the acrylic world and put them together. Good stuff. So I kind of want this sky to be mainly dark purples and some hints of magenta. I'm going to bring a little puddle over here. And I'm going to toss the tiniest bit of quinacridone, however you say it. Get myself a little puddle off to the side. This is not your ideal washing palette, you know. It doesn't have really a basin, but I find it does enough of a trick here. Just a hair more. I'm going to mix it on this side and just toss it up there. Throw a dash of black in it. I want it to just be a little more dull. More water. Just a little more dull. I'll be going over this anyway. Added a little more water to my brush there. I'm not too concerned with the brush strokes here. I would be if I was doing a watercolor painting. I would pay more attention and care to it being smooth. But as you can see, with a good wash brush and enough water, it kind of does that for you. Something I've noticed too about when your easel is up this steep, a water medium, you gotta watch out for that tape edge on the bottom. It wants to gather up. Something like that. A little deeper purple on top than the bottom. And I think that'll be a good starting point. Because we're working on limited time today, I'm going to grab my hair dryer here. And as you can see, the paint's already gathering up at the bottom of my palette. It's not a basin-based palette. I've yet to find my favorite basin-based palette. I think what I hate about it is how tiny they are. I like larger surface areas in my palette, and that's how I like to work. So, mind the hair dryer. I'm going to mute the mic really quick. No, I'm not going to dry it all the way while it's still a little bit wet. I'm going to come back with a little bit of this black and a little bit of this purple. And toss another layer up here. Now it's a bit dry, but it's not cured. There's a difference you'll notice. Mash my brush in. A couple swipes. Smooth it out up here. And then I'm going to take my spray bottle. I'm going to spray along the edge. kind of let that do its thing a little bit. And I'm going to clean my brush. Just get water on it. Sort of. Kind of soften up the edges just a little bit. I'm not going to worry about that being too perfect right now. Something like that. Nice and simple. I'm going to dry my brush even more. Maybe you can go for a little bit of a dry brush here. See what it gives me. I like that. Another little bit of a dry brush there. And toss one there. The thing about these storm clouds is they often look like they come right down and touch the ground. Another dry brush. And just see what that gives me later. Alright, cool. I'm going to switch brushes here. I think I'm going to take out my quill brush. I tend to like flat brushes and round brushes and like chisel ones. I don't mess with the quill that much. But I see people get a lot of use out of it. And I'm already not liking I think the thing with the quill is, for me, is it puts out a lot of water. And I think that's what makes it great for watercolor. Maybe it's just not as great for opaque painting and the way I like to do things. I'm going to take some pretty much almost straight black. I'm going to throw like a hair of white in it. And a good healthy amount of water to keep it transparent. And while this is still wet, I'm going to just start experimenting up here. Just going to start tossing up some thicker clouds. And the reason I'm going up while it's still wet is it'll just help you have some softer edges on your clouds here. And also I want it to kind of bring some of the purple underpainting out to react with it, if that makes sense. And just being mindful, trying to sketch out some of the cloud shapes that I like. There's going to be a lightning bolt coming out here. This is a lightning study after all. Grab a little bit more of this color. Toss it up here. So far the quill brush ain't bad for making clouds, I must say. I have to be a bit rude to it though. Bristles ain't happy with me. And I'm going to leave a little pocket of light here. Because I want to work. We'll make a little more of this color. Grab a little bit of this purple and add the touch of white. I don't want it to be pure black. I'm saving pure black for a very specific thing. And I want to preserve the light here. I'm working towards the lightning bolt. And one thing, I'm thinking here is maybe my clouds are looking a little repetitive. You can experiment too with a spray bottle. Kind of go back in and spritz it a little bit and see how the water moves around. This is a little bit more risky for me. I'm trying to keep it a bit more dry due to the angle of my easel right now. It's perfectly vertical. So in that case, it's the water runs down very fast, and sometimes that gives undesired effects. Okay, and let this dry a little bit more over here. Now I think what I'm going to do to experiment, bring in increasingly lighter and more purple shades here. get a bit more purple in that. Push the purple here and not be afraid to. And I'm always learning. That ended up being darker than I wanted it to. Maybe I had to add more white than I thought. Try that one. Still a good idea to do wet on wet here. It's getting a tad dry. And that's okay. Let it react. I'm going to let this color go off the edge. See what that does. I never really know exactly what it's going to do. It's always a bit of a gamble, a little bit of an experiment. I will take a gamble, speaking of that, by spritzing right there, just getting it wet again. Not too much. A fine line. Very easy to go too much with the spritz. And here's where I'm going to bring in a bit more of the magenta. And somewhere in the mid-chroma area. And a bit more white, a bit more magenta, and a bit more purple. Purple's going to darken it, so I'm going to have to use the white and the magenta to brighten that up. If anything, I probably should use the magenta to brighten it up just a bit more than the white. And someone just rang my bell. I will be right back. Alright. And as you can see, I walked away for a second here, and my spritz got away from me. But it's okay. It's a little bit wet still. And we can use this wet on wet technique to get beautiful fading effects. And it does all the work for you. All the work for you. And again, I'm going quick because I don't have a lot of time today. One more spritz there. Keep it wet. Not too crazy. Not too crazy. I'm going to go ahead and maybe get on top here with this a little bit. See what that does for us. I'm going to clean my brush completely. So far the Quilla brush is doing me good. I just wanted to get us some pure water and just lighten that up there a little bit. Alright, this is still at a good amount wet. I'm going to go one shade brighter. And bring in a bit more white. I'm just going to toss that here. Not too much of it. This is kind of where the lightning is going to burst out of the cloud, in my opinion. I'm already going to have to go back to something a tad darker here. And just kind of layer it in around the edges. It's okay to let some grays happen. I like to have a lot of different versions, colors I'm using. Bring it right up to that. Let that all sort of merge together. I'm going to go back to a more purpley cloud color here. And kind of, actually a little bit darker. And my goal is to bring the light out in this area more by just adding more contrast over here. I'm going to do one spray, actually a couple. I don't want it to be too wet, but it was also a hair dry. Gonna grab a bit more black and just put it directly on the canvas. I'll even grab a little purple with it. maybe something like that. Spray the bottom of it, let it run just a little bit. And as you can see, it's really fun. You can use a lot of watercolor technique with this stuff. If you're familiar with it. Works very similar. I am painting on paper. Archie's, however you say it. Oh, I forgot I had a tea. Gotta sip my tea. Oh, nice. Warms the soul. Alright. And slowly merge this over. There's kind of a little bit of overlap I want to happen here. Something like that. Alright. Just kind of let it be a cloud that's in front of that other cloud. Basically the goal. This is the mean cloud that's floating over the top of the city. If that makes sense. Alright. Now I kind of want to take just something a bit more magenta in nature. And a bit lighter. Almost going towards gray, but with a hint of magenta. And I kind of want it to hang out over here a little bit. And I should have had less water on my brush. But we're going to play with this. You can see I'm being very crude. Not really worried about this being perfect here. Just letting textures happen, letting it get weird. And I remember I was telling you in a couple streams ago to not marry your brush. That's exactly what I'm not going to do right here. I'm going to take a stiffer square brush here with just some water on it. And see if we can pull some of this around. Break up some of the edges here. Merge it a little bit up top. Let some of the edges get fuzzy. Add a little bit of water. Maybe spray it once. Let this merge here a little bit. Get the bottom wet again a little bit. Just so I can feather this bottom edge particularly. It's going to be a sort of glow I'm going to try to get. Just right down here where the city is. And sort of preserve this area here. I am infusing a lot more watercolor technique here. I find that you can go with gouache, you can go as thick as you want, but I find that it benefits you to stay as thin as possible for as long as possible. I don't know if that's a paper thing, but to me, I find just the gouache feels better to work with physically when it's thinner. But you can work all the way up to, what is it called, impasto? I don't know the term. But it's really thick. Alright. Now, just going to take a minute, let it catch up, dry a little bit. And actually, I lied. I'm going to add a couple more lightning bolt spots here. Get my quill brush back out. Play with these gradients we had over here already. Going from dark purples that lighten up and add progressively a little bit more magenta and white. And I'm going to put one right here, make it a little bit wet. Put one right there, make it a little bit wet. Dry out my brush a little bit. Needed more white. Toss that in there. Just let that all react. Being very loose with it today. I think that's important for a study, because with studying, you want to just move through it quick. Slow down a little bit in the areas that you feel you're interested in. Something like that. Grab a little bit more white here. Here's where I might grab the tiniest hair of the cerulean blue. I just think it'd be fun to bring a little bit of that colder color into the lightning bolt, even though it's hot. Just for fun. Just as like a little touch. Toss that in there. Wasn't quite enough paint there. There we go. Just right where it's going to come out of the cloud. Have it extra bright there. And then same thing up here. Maybe one more spritz of water on it. Just toss it right there. Let that react. What I find so fun too is with the reactivating aspect like that is you can almost create these little mini spots where you have that wet on wet. You don't necessarily have to have your entire canvas wet on wet. Like that. Chill a little bit. Alright, cool. Next up, we're going to make a new color here. I'm going to grab a bigger flat brush. Probably about the size of my thumb. This is a 9 by 12 inch piece of paper, by the way. Okay. I'm going to mix something a bit more gray here. And maybe even toss in some of that cerulean, but overall, I want it to be gray. If anything, having a hair of that purple probably. At first. It's the first hint of our land. And I'm going to experiment here by just wetting the very bottom edge before I paint this in to hopefully get a softer edge. It's a really great way to get a softer edge quick. Not having to worry about coming back and doing all this blending. Grab a bit brighter color. I'm going to toss it just a couple spots here while it's still wet. And even do another spritz. Toss it there. I might even just grab some paint and flick it if it lets me. There we go. Something like that. Might have gone a little crazy. That's okay. Here's where we can even just grab some bright saturated magentas, maybe even some blues. Get a little crazy. and smallest spritz on them. I want them to be kind of blotchy, orby things for now, and hopefully when I come back in a minute, we can mess around with it. Alright. Basically got the hints of some lights. And I might paint over this entirely. It's just something, it's a little experiment, you know? Always trying to figure out what I'm doing here. Just as much as you are. So, I want to take this color with a hair darker, keeping it more on the desaturated side, and might be jumping the gun here a little bit, but see if it'll stay. Alright, just dry enough. And it's fun to experiment with, let me tell you. You can find all these different stages of dry that these wet mediums have, and all these different nuances, different types of effects you can get. I think, you know, if you could almost imagine how you could turn the knob on an effect that is like the amount of water, right? The higher you turn that knob, the more it will run down the paper. You can really use that to your advantage. I'm just cutting into some of these blobs. And I want this to be faint, this color. Maybe in some hints of man-made edges. The thing with man-made edges, we like to make things in right angles and make things straight. Great way to start hinting at buildings in a city, or just edges, pretty harsh straight edges, especially in contrast to clouds being blobs, or, you know, nature bits in general are blobby. They tend to be. Okay. I'm taking a little step back here. I'm trying to decide how I'm going to want to layer this in its entirety. Oh, and I realize I got to plug my phone in really quick here. Now, I've let it dry a little bit. I'm going to come in with a smaller brush and just add some little details here. You can grab more pure white. And just bring out some of these lights a bit more. And I'm going to be impressionistic with them, not getting too crazy. Here's where I think it'd be fun to bring in like a touch of another hue. Find it here. Cadmium red will do. Maybe a pre-mix. Even some yellow as well. Grab some yellow. It's in my deep drawer here. Cadmium yellow. Good old classics. I'm not going to need a lot of it. It's just for some city light touches. There's so many different lights going on in the city. So it's good to have that variety. See the drastic difference between that red and that red. Yellow destroying all those blues in there. purples. And just a dash of orange. Just some. I already put way too much of that paint down. Not even gonna use 1% of that. And I want to actually mix it in with some white. I don't want it to be too out of the tube. And just kind of be random with it. You know, these could be brake lights coming through the fog. Or maybe traffic lights way off in the distance. I'm gonna grab a little yellow. Just toss it in randomly. There's a lot of fog and atmosphere going on too, so what's gonna happen here is there's gonna be pretty much no light that doesn't have a little bit of a bloom around it, if that makes sense. The paper's still wet, by the way, and I might even want to just really far away mist it. I don't want it to be too wet and ruin my nice little dots, but just enough water so that if I come over here, I need to grab like my own pile of white for the weird colors. A lot of binder on the top of these new paint tubes sometimes. Almost needed to be even more drastically red, yeah. Something like that. Very far and few between with the reds that drastic. But they are out there. Especially with man-made light. Here and there. That might be a bit punchy. But that's okay. You just have these occasional super bright ones. You have little shines to them. Sort of like that. I don't know why my camera keeps blinking like that. I apologize. I'm kind of working a little bit outdated at this point. My camera technology is like 2016, but it still holds up to the day and age. It's not so bad that I would say it ruins the experience, but definitely outdated. Time for some new camera stuff. And let's just grab pure white. Put it right in the middle of that for fun. A few of these gotta be that pure white, and I'll show you why, because there's another layer of trees that are gonna be in front of this, and you'll see that it'll be nice how it pops. Now I'm just grabbing a slightly darker color, occasionally just toss in between, because there's some buildings here, and it's not all that same tone of gray. It sort of fades in and out around the colors, or the street lights and traffic lights rather. Spots where there's a lot of street lights and traffic lights gathered. It seems to blare it out a little bit more, but then out over here in the hills where the city's a little bit more rural, we get a little bit of fun contrast in there. And I'll be honest, I'm feeling bad for my little detail brush here. Probably should just grab a chisel. I'll tell you, these detail brushes do not last long, so I try to preserve the tips of them as much as I can. This brush right here, this smaller chisel blender, I freaking love this thing. It is one of the most diverse brushes, I think. can do so many things. It's great. It blends really well too because it has short bristles, which really gives it this really nice digging ability almost. Just really can scrape at the paint. And hopefully my light's not it's not too bright here. Bring that back a bit. Still got some shines going up here. And we're going to go back to the clouds in a minute. I'm just trying to lay out the main ideas. And I don't know if this is going to translate. It's one of those paintings that when I saw it and I decided to do it, it's like, this could go either way. I'm going to do the same thing and kind of mist far out from the painting. Just get it a little bit wet. Wet enough to where it's not going to make all the work I did bleed and run down the paper, but also that it's wet. It's a fine line. Easy to overshoot. Now I want to mix this yellow and red together. Kind of just gave me that pre-mix orange, didn't it? Pretty darn close at least. The city's more densely populated over here. By miles. And then the lights are less rural, or more rural. Seems to go off into the cliff sides. And there's a big gathering of lights right here. I want to get it. They all kind of blob together. The assorted colors, which is fun. Just toss in a little bit of yellow in there. Grab another red one. This red's very bold. It's like, if I had to give it a name, it's like break light red. Crayola names. Remember that stuff? When I was growing up, I was always laughing at those colors. Macaroni and cheese, I remember. The Crayola color. Okay, I'm trying to keep it impressionistic. I just want it to look like a city. Hopefully once the lightning bolts and everything come in, it'll make it clear. Alright. Some dots out here. Backing up from it for a second. Still need some. Try another flick. Nope. Didn't want to get it there. Okay, it wiped off for me. Because it's not. I didn't want to do too much of the flick. It's not quite droplet looking, but some of it is. Because I think between the leaves of the trees and the chaoticness of the lights and those two layers coming together makes some of them appear as if it's droplet-y. But I feel like if I was to just spray droplets everywhere, it wouldn't quite look like the chaos of city lights. It's like a storefront right here. It's like a big building. And then there's like another thing. Like little hints of man-made shapes, you know? Little edges. And a lot of this is going to be cut off anyway, but I'm painting down past the point it will so that we can get some peeks through the trees there. It's almost like blurred out car headlights. And I do want to take the time to grab some of these pure white blobs, toss them in. Right off the top of the paint. I actually got to spray my palette again. I haven't done that enough this painting. Get back into my pure white there. Just like bring it to another spot on the palette. White dirty is very easy on the palette. It's worth washing your brush when you're trying to mix like a new category of colors on your palette. You want that nice clean white. Also, it's a very fine line too sometimes, like the brightest whites versus the slightest off-white, giving the effect that it's actually bright. Sometimes just a little bit of color in that white, it'll just dull it just enough. There's some houses that go off into the trees here. Some porch lights, stuff like that. There's a car in the woods over there somewhere, pulling out of his driveway. There's like a clearly like a little like a skyscraper thing going on, big building, and you can just barely, ever so barely see it. I almost don't even want to. Actually, it's not bad. Pretty happy with that. I'll even let it go taller than the land, just slightly. Trying to really hold back the reins on detailing too much. But this is one of the points in the painting where like it contradicts that a little bit, because I would say that there's always a little bit of a point in your painting where it's time to slow down and just give it a little bit of extra attention. Just a little bit. A couple dots. That was too much. Okay. I think just one more spray above it. Being very careful. I almost should just block it like this. And I want to try to get a little bit more of a glow just above, but it's tough. It's tough. Maybe with my finger. Sometimes you gotta experiment to find effects. I would say there's not always the same path. Basically, I'm trying to get that light pollution. Right now, it's like just above. I'm gonna add some lights that go right up to it. It's the light pollution that just goes just above the city when you're looking at it from a distance, especially over the really bright spots. And this same thing, I'm gonna block it. Just want it to happen above there. Oop, let it bleed too much. It's okay. Toss it there. And the trees are going to be going over this anyway. Hopefully maybe that will translate. Kinda, sort of. Kinda, sort of. It's pretty darn close, actually. Surprised I didn't tarnish the city lights. Just that little bloom. Just a little bloom over the city. Subtle things. And I'm going to doctor in a few more of these bright lights. Hopefully it's still not too wet. It's just that perfect amount. I want the lights, especially if it's blooming really bright here. Toss in some color variety. Hopefully this will be making more sense in context once everything else comes in. Again, I do not have time to spend 4 hours on this one today. Or 6 hours even. Wish I did. I'm already coming up on about 45 minutes left before I gotta start skedaddling. There wasn't enough paint on the brush. For some reason it just came off. The brush dark. Sometimes you just gotta grab a bit of thick paint and just go for it. Like that. Just really toss an actual glob of paint right on the freaking canvas. And I suggest waiting till the final layers for that, but sometimes that's the only thing that'll be bright enough. Especially someone like me that's always painting thin layers on top of thin layers, building it up. I find I have to push that a bit. Alright. So now I think it's time to do the lightning bolts next. And here's where it might get tricky. Here's the tricky part here. Where honestly, I almost want to dry the city. Now, you know what? I think we can get away with it. Let's see. We don't have time to dry the city. What is the brush of choice, though? Use my little coaster here instead. So, I want just under these lightning bolts to be wet, and I'm going to hopefully get, especially these two, I'm going to hopefully get a glow effect. Go sneeze. Excuse me. Alright. Let's go for it here. Actually, I gotta fill up my water. It's too risky. So unfortunately, sorry, my mic got muted somehow over the last like 15 minutes or so. I'll try to fix it in post, and then I'll just pick up back here. Anyway, with this one, it's a bit brighter with the tendrils. And it seems to be this lightning bolt's like, it's almost like someone died right here. It's the most intense one. And I remember seeing a meme back in the day. It's pretty funny. It showed like 3 lightning bolts hitting the ocean. And it was like God said like, forget these 3 specific fish. All right. Paying attention to making sure the tendrils fade out. And I would like the glow around the lightning to be a bit brighter. But I'm not going to mess with that right now. I'm going to let the lightning completely dry because I like my lightning bolts. They will easily get messed up from spraying water on top of them. And I want to just throw some pure white at certain points of these bolts, just to increase the intensity in certain spots, and just add a little bit of color variety to it. After all, these are punching through a lot of atmosphere before they meet your eyes, though they are bright. So there is going to be that slight variety. Because to me, I see color in lightning bolts, even though it's close to pure white. Okay, now the next big step here, going to go to a much bigger brush. I'm going to go to a flat brush. You know what? I'm going to experiment. I'm going to use my wash brush here. It's big fatty. Holds a lot of water. But here is where we're going to just take our black. Really get crazy with it. I'm going to grab some white. Mix it here. And grab some purple. And mix it here. And then grab some purple, also mix it into our pure black here. And I might have to get more black out of the tube, but it's fine. Here's where we're just going to go crazy with a super dark silhouette. Just paying attention to trying to make some treetop textures. And not going too high onto the canvas here. And I'm going to leave some spaces between the trees because there are going to be some city lights poking through. And honestly, I think here's where I'm going to switch to a smaller brush, so I can be a little bit more delicate about my getting around my city lights here. I don't want to cover up any that I like too much. Okay. Just going to clean off my brush here. Set that off to the side. I'm going to go with my original plan, which was my bigger flat brush. Just grab the same color. Continue this here. Yeah, that's more controlled. Here's where, you know, one tree peeks over these city lights, a little shine through. And I don't want this to be pure black yet. We'll get there. There's still a bit of color, like the slightest bit of color variety in these trees, even though it is overall a silhouette. And there's one tree right here that kind of juts up right in front of these lights, which I like. It really looks like a tree. So I want to nail that silhouette, but preserve this light here. A couple leaves in front of it. And then the tree is like right here, comes up. And there's clear branches like this, and has leaves on it. Just have some of those lights poking through. the tree here. There we go. I just want to throw some tree clumps, just sort of floating above here and there. Some branches going to them. Sort of like that. And here's where I'm going to take my hairdryer out and dry it up. Just see what we got. Alright, cool. And, drying it all completely really quick is a nice way to sort of, it's almost like merging your layers in a digital program. Kind of locks everything in, kind of sees what everything looks like when it's dry, that flattens the paper out nice. And it's sort of a good reset point. Now here's where I want to grab a bit more black. So I don't run out of it. I'm pretty happy with it. We have about 15 minutes left for the demo time. Basically, I just need to bring in... I need to fix some of the negative space in the trees. It's not quite there. I'm purposely letting it dry brush a little bit in case it creates some nice effects. I'm going to make this a bit more solid of a tree line and just make the resolution of the leaves a bit more refined. And make this a bit more uniform of a color on the bottom than on the top. I think that's where it really truly gets black, is down here, and then just here and there. The trees get a little bit lighter due to like bloom effects and stuff like that. This is an exposure thing from the camera too. And also it'll make these city lights feel a bit brighter if we can bring this closer to black as well. I would have loved to have been able to spend more time on this too, but it's the way it goes. All I know is while I'm at work today, I will be happy that I committed to making sure I furthered myself in art a little bit today. I think that's the best thing for any artist to do. Just try to touch the canvas once a day. Alright, I'm going to clean my brush and try to bring back some of these city lights here. A little bit too much water. Nope. Whoops. There goes the palette camera. Alright. Hopefully you don't fall again. Good thing I dried my painting. It could have been disastrous, huh? Okay. Got my pure white here. And some of these city lights are pure white. And I think there's just more of them. It's good that they're a little blurred. Let's see, get some red ones going here. And it's almost like there'll be a red light, but it has a white center to it. Always turning my brush. Brush is a bit too big. Let's just do a smaller one. The straight up tiny one. Be good for just making the super tiny light dots. Because they definitely sneak into the trees here. Some orange ones too, can't be all white. And some of these got dulled out in the process, whether it was from spraying water or it just being still wet, not seeing the true color. That's something you'll have to juggle, figure out. And I think something that makes it look more city is there's sort of these, you'll see things line up here and there, straight lines with the lights themselves. Could be because it's like a city street, maybe, And, yeah. There's always some lights that are high up on a tower. Is that a little yellow? Haven't done a yellow light in a second. Actually, you know what would be cool? It's probably too far though. It must be cool if you could see like the McDonald's. I threw in like a little McDonald's tower symbol. I feel like that's something you always see coming off the highway. The giant M, yellow M. Makes you want some French fries, you know what I mean? And here the trees get extra dense. Not as many lights coming through. Got some color in there. Maybe there's a couple stray. As you can see, I barely use any of this blue. Back in the day, that would have been a waste. Lapis lazuli, or whatever you call that. Lazuli, lapis lazuli, the stone. Pigments were very expensive. Now there's just some that literally need the purest white of the purest white out of the tube. Sometimes the closest you can get to that is literally just dipping your brush into the tube. Not on every light, but on some. And turns out the city glow effect I tried to get after it dried, it basically disappeared, so I could have pushed it way more when I thought it was too bright. And painting's pretty much done. Nice and simple. I think that's what's fun about it. There are certain paintings like this. I think there's one more detail. I want to cut this lightning bolt off here with the land. This particular detail there. And then a little bit of shadow could probably sneak in between some of these lights on the land itself. And we'll call it there. Let's see. Could just grab a little bit of this. Could even be too dark. It was a tad dark. This lightning bolt just, by the slightest hint, gets overlapped by the land because it's far away, but it's subtle. Very easy to go too dark here. More water. It's too dark, add more water. It's a good rule of thumb. And wait for it to dry before you think it's too dark. Learn that lesson many times. It's just a hint of some land here. Alright. Very happy with this. This is a fun painting. Again, I just still want to come back and add some of this pure white here. And there's probably some very faint lights that are even red shifting. Just way back here. Way off on the mountains. Could be some houses. Very subtle. Houses built up on the hills. Just barely showing their lights. Very subtle. Maybe one could be a little extra bright. Or two. That one rich guy has the fountain up there. And it also just shows the hint that there's some land there. Alright, let's peel the tape. Oh, actually, let's sign it. Let's sign it first. I'll sign it in lightning bolt color. And we finished just on time. 11:04. There we go. All right. Peel the tape time is the funnest time. What was the last piece of tape that went on? I think it was this one. All right. A little bled through, but it happens. I find that happens a lot more when you do a lot more wet painting, wet on wet. Stuff's really thin, so it can get under that tape. There we go. Trying not to be in the way of the peel cam here. Oh, it's so satisfying. A little bleed through, and especially on the bottom, which makes sense because that's where the water is all falling down to. And paper has texture. The tape's not perfectly watertight up against that texture. It happens. Let's see if we got the bottom edge though. For the most part. Let's go. Nice. Alright. Last but not least, I'm gonna put my thumb on it here. Always peel away from your painting. If you peel towards it, you'll run the risk of ripping paper into the painting, ruining that line. Nice. Alright. Really like how the underpainting came out. Let's see if I can turn this towards you more now. You can see? So it's sort of like you're back up in the hills. You're taking that picture of lightning bolts hitting over the city down below. I'm really happy with how it came out. And I hope you enjoyed watching. Thank you so much. I'm sorry this didn't come out in the form of a stream today. I am very bummed that my internet didn't work, so I figured I'd just try to record what I would have done anyway, and we're going to upload it as a video. And apologize for that weird voiceover part. I muted my mic during these whole 2 lightning bolts, unfortunately, and that's just the way the story goes sometimes. Thank you for watching, and I will see you hopefully for a stream on Sunday. If not, then I'll just try to do another demo for you and upload it. Yeah, I don't know. There's been a lot of storms lately, speaking of, and because of that, maybe the internet is a little more wacky than it should be. Take care, and like and subscribe if you enjoy what you see. Helps out the channel a ton. And see you next time. Thanks.